Hey everybody, it's Leon with White Away Productions, and today what we're going to talk about is the 4 states of the mind, or what I call the 4 realms. And but before we do that, what I'd like to do is thank 2 groups of people. One group is from the IC on Facebook, and the other one is from the BF community on Facebook. So Lisa, Mandy, Jen, Daniel, Maureen, Rob, Johnny, Celeste, Todd, Jill, who else is there? Corey, and there's a whole group of you. I just really appreciate you guys coming along and joining along on this little process and this little journey, and that you guys have great worth. Want to make sure that you know that. And just before we talk about what we're going to talk about, I got another book for you. One sec. Whoop. Whoop. This book is There's a Monster Under My Bed. A lot lighter reading than Jordan Peterson or You're Not Your Mind. Now, why would I be giving you this book? Well, I actually know Allison Hamlin, and I got a chance to meet with her down in Utah. And it's a book because the reason why I wanted to kind of promote her little book, it's definitely for kids. It's a kid's book, but it's The Monster Under Our Bed. And when I talked about the conscious versus the subconscious, we're consciously on top of our bed, afraid of what is subconsciously under our bed, and worried that the big monster that might come up in an awkward feeling in our body is somehow going to scare the death out of us. Now, the neat thing about Allison's book here is actually the monster, who happens to be Ned, Ned, is actually terrified of what's above, what's in the real world. And so the little guy up here is going to introduce Ned to the real world so he doesn't have to be afraid. So that's kind of what we're talking about when you come back to yourself. We have to almost get our little kids inside ourselves, who are usually hiding under the bed, to not be afraid of what the real world is. And that's why I want to talk to you about what's called the 4 realms. Now, why is this kind of important? Well, I keep talking to you about the idea about training yourself so that you live more consciously available in the day, compared to just running on this subconscious programming system that we've picked up from our past. Now, why is that important? Well, let me kind of put it in perspective for you. There's a little phrase that I'll use with people, and you can try this, and you probably have tried this, or you probably noticed these 2 examples yourself, which is, you can't kiss your boyfriend and think of kissing your boyfriend at the same time. Or you can't kiss your girlfriend and think about kissing your girlfriend at the same time. Well, sure, I can do that. Well, of course you can do that. But the problem is, as soon as you start thinking about what you're doing, then what happens is you're no longer present in the experience of it. Or another way of looking at it is, Heidi used to help me with this, because being a white Alberta redneck, I know nothing about how to dance. And so when I used to dance with Heidi, she would help me relax by saying, Leon wants to dance. Because the problem with what was going on in my head was, every time I went and danced, remember I used to have a huge codependency problem, which is the addiction to people, worried about what other people might think of me. So what ended up happening with that is, every time I tried to dance, sometimes I'd be right into dancing, but then I started thinking about dancing. And as soon as I started thinking about dancing, then what ended up happening was I couldn't dance, because I was too much introspective about how I was looking as I was dancing. Total different realms. And that's what we're kind of talking about, is you can either be part of the kiss of the person that you love, or you'll step outside yourself and reflect on the kiss, and you're not being part of the experience. So you won't actually enjoy the experience as much, or be present in the experience as much. And that's important, so that you retain that life has good experiential moments in it. Okay? So, getting on to what we're going to talk about today. So right behind me, you can see these kind of 4 little figures here. Okay? In your mind, you have this memory bank source that happens. And this memory bank, it usually is housed in the subconscious. And what that is basically all the information that you have picked up in your lifetime is now stored within inside of your body. And inside of the mind, you have what's called default folders. Meaning that when you first experience certain emotional events in your life, that was the first time, say if we had anger, fear, happiness, sadness, as soon as you first experienced that and you perceived what you thought about it, that folder opened up and those perceptions went inside of that folder. So if some of you have had traumatic experiences happen to you and you're now traumatically bonded to those experiences, then what happens with that folder is it gets bigger and bigger and bigger over the traumatic experiences that you have, and then you can't see life with options, as I mentioned in that last little video on thinking out of the box. So what ends up happening with your mind is it goes through this filter. So if some pretty shitty things have happened to me in life, I will start perceiving, in my lower subconscious, I will start perceiving that life is shitty. And if I'm starting to sense that life is shitty and it goes through that, it's going to go through that filter and everything's going to be shitty. The problem with the four realms is that it always comes back into your head the same way. But let me break it down for you first, okay? So the first realm is where I came from. That's my past. Everything from this second beyond our past, what I just said there, okay, that's the past. The next realm is where I am. That's right now talking to you. I'm presently talking to you. I'm not kissing you and thinking about kissing you. I'm too busy kissing you right now. Why? Because you got great worth, okay? Next one is where I'm going, you know, what's coming up in the future. And the final one is where I'm going to end up. Now the problem with these four realms is they enter your thought process all the same way, through thoughts in your head with emotions and feelings attached that you feel internally with inside of this vessel of your body. And that can be pretty confusing for us. And I think it was Confucius that said, if you're depressed, you're probably have a lot of scripts and a lot of feelings about your past in your body, haunting your body. If you have a lot of anxiety, you probably are thinking about the fear of the future within inside of your body. So that's kind of not a good thing, because what ends up happening is you can't stay present. I can't stay and absorb that I'm okay now in my body. And as somebody who's had acute anxiety disorder for most of my life, I mean, I was either operating out of my past, and that, again, it's just coming up subconsciously through that filter of what my world view is, or the worry of the future. And it's a terrible kind of state to be in. So how do I help people with this? Well, usually what I'll say to people in the class is, okay, you got these four states, where I came from, where I am, where I'm going, where I'm going to end up, and everyone goes, yes. And then I'll ask this question: what tense is this? Past, present, or future? So we go to the first one, where I came from. What tense is that, you guys? That's right, past. It's the past. I go to the next one, where I am. What tense is that? Present. Good job. I go to the next one, which is where I'm going. Well, what tense is that? Well, that's future. And where I'm going to end up is basically, you know, will my life have meaning and stuff like that. What tense is that? Future. Okay, so the first one is past, second one is present, third is future, and the fourth one is future. Now the question is, which one's reality? That's the question I pose to people. And they'll think about it a bit, and they'll say, the present. Now why is the present reality? Not saying the things that happened to me in the past didn't happen, but we're talking about a timeline. It doesn't have it divided into timelines. So in other words, if I've had traumatic things happen to me in the past, I'm aware of it, but the effects of it stays back in the past. It doesn't. It still is present in my body, especially if I haven't negotiated a lot of crisis that's happened in my life. So when you understand that, what we're trying to do is understand that everything that is important to me right now is right now. Right now. 5 seconds from now, that's the future. There's nothing I can do from 5 seconds from right now, because I don't know, a bomb could go off. My roof could be ripped off, and a giant pterodactyl will come down and pluck off my head. I don't know. I don't know what the future. I don't have control over the future. The past is in the past, and it does haunt my body. But when I, with intent, in other words, I'm presently available to look at my past, then I can usually negotiate it and unravel that mystery that's happened to me. But I can't go back and live out of that past. That's the subconscious governing scene that keeps regulating my life, usually through that low chronic anxiety and low chronic heaviness. So it makes it pretty hard for me to stay present. Now, why is there comfort in understanding this concept here is I don't know what it means for most of my life to live now. I know for most of my life I've experienced it either of the worry with anxiety of what happened to me in the past, which kept drawing me in a non-reality, meaning a timeline, that this past has now still coming to haunt me, which is going to stop me from being able to be me. In other words, as soon as that hits my body, I go into thinking about living in my life instead of being in my life. You can tell the difference a bit too, that's when I always say to you guys, I want you to not think, reflect. When you're usually thinking, that's usually either activating the past history realm or the future history realm, and it usually has an anxiety and a fear attached to it. When I talk about reflecting on it, see, reflecting is about I'm consciously with intent, meaning I'm choosing to look at this so I can actually look at it down here instead of having it just as thoughts in my head with emotions attached. Going back to that phrase, I wouldn't have recognized that I was carrying thoughts in my head with emotions attached that I felt internally within inside of this body of judgment, accusation, negative declaration, condemnation, and guilt because I was too busy being judged, condemned, negative declaration, and guilt. I became that. And I couldn't get to the elevated part of when I get to ask myself with conscious availability, what is that? Well, that's not me, that's my past perception of what I thought about myself. That's my old worldview. So the idea about when you look at where I came from, where I am, where I'm going, the most important thing to do is realize I am here. So that's the problem with the other thing about the mind, because it doesn't hold history in a chronological order kind of style. It's just chronically there all the time. But when I see that I have made it, and I can't see it when I made it when I keep getting haunted from the past or worried about the future, because I'm not present in my body to be present to look at my past and to look at my future down here, so I get a chance to figure out whether or not it's true today. Because my body can't upgrade itself. I still carry within inside of my body this imprint of past history that I can't trust people, that I can't trust myself, that it's not going to get any better, that there's no way possible this is going to work out. That was all in the past. What I forget is I've made it. I've made it through being sexually abused. I've made it through being physically abused. I've made it so far. And how do I know that? Because you're looking at me. So go to the mirror, look at yourself in the mirror, and look at you and say, I made it. I'm going to live in the now. I must be doing something right because I'm still standing here and I'm still alive. Now these other active forces, kind of these fronts, these realms are going to still keep trying to push their way back into you, but they only have power of you or over you when you don't realize that you're here right now. I have right now, Leon. And sometimes dealing with my anxiety disorder, especially when I lost those 31 people in my life and they were all close within 5 years, I had well-meaning people saying to me, well, you know, Leon, just one day at a time. Man, I couldn't live one day at a time. I was living 1 second at a time, which gave me this epiphany. I literally would look at the clock and go, like I'm doing right now, 5 seconds went by. Did anything bad happen? No. Did it again for 10 seconds. 10 seconds has gone by. I'm living in the now. Did anything bad happen in that 10 seconds? No. Now why is that important for me to slow it right down to that level in seconds? Because even when there's nothing that's happening bad because of my past realm and my worry about the future realms, I have anxiety. But the problem is it's not real. And how do I know it's not real? Because right now, in this 5 seconds, there's nothing for me to worry about and to be afraid of. Okay? So the key part about the 4 realms is the only one you want to focus is on today. You're going to have to discipline yourself a bit about staying present in the day as long as you can, and you do that with intent, meaning that when you feel these thoughts in your head with these emotions attached that try to draw you from your past imprint or worldview that you've had about whatever you're struggling with right now, what's in front of you right now, that's what's going to get triggered, is all this past history. And it'll try to rob you from being able to be relaxed and realize there's nothing I can do about the past other than be curious about it and find out what happened to me. There's nothing I can do about 5 seconds from now or the future other than be present in the situation I'm in right now. It's okay to be confused. It's okay not to have the answers. It's okay to be vulnerable in that state. Dropping dead 6 times with a rare blood disorder. The biggest gift I got from that, as much as that's a tragedy to most people, and it certainly was a tragedy to me as well, was I learned a different way. And what I learned was to live now. I can't fight the fight of death when death is coming my way. When it happens, I will live it in the moment. If I pass on again for number 7, the only person I'm going to have in the internal process of my own death is going to be me. And I want to be there for the whole present process. I don't buy personally that it's the end when I die. So that's all I'll say about that. So on the side note, or getting back to what I'm talking about, with intent, I expect awkward experiences to come into my body. But I'm going to be, with intent, I'm actually going to wait for that. I mean, not wait for it, but expect it, because it is going to happen. It's going to happen to you guys when you're this week. So instead of worrying about it and all of a sudden it hitting me, I'm going to expect it to show up. When it shows up, I'm going to learn from it. And I'm going to ask the right questions, like, where's that from? Is that true? Could it be real? No, my past history was real, so it'll come in my body like, oh yeah, it is real. That's my acute anxiety disorder. But the question is it real right now, in this second, presently? I want to be in my experience of it, not out of my experience of it. So that's all I got to share with you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to share it. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you push like, subscribe, and that little bell so you get new notifications. And if you get a chance to, pick up Allison's book. I think it's on Amazon for 20 bucks. She wants to do a secondary, two more books to this series. So if you want, pick it up, check it out. Help Ned not be afraid of his hauntings. Help yourself not to be afraid of your hauntings. And we'll see you on the next video. Thanks, you guys. Much grace, much patience, much gentleness. You have great worth. Thanks for your support, and enjoy your week.